When traveling through the Arctic regions, you have to be careful. Sometimes, even looking around and watching your surroundings, you still are faced with inevitable dangers. And as you can see, I'm terrified. But all jokes aside, today we're going to discuss a story that Joe Rogan, a popular podcast and former Fear Factor host, talks about. The Norwegian Sea, or Norskehavet, or Icelandic, is a marginal sea grouped with either the Atlantic Ocean or the Arctic Ocean, northwest of Norway between the North Sea and Greenland Sea, adjoining the Barents Sea to the northeast. In the 15th century, this shipping lane was a very important lane. Ships tried to cut through the ice, thus getting their shipping goods to their destinations sooner. July 9th, 1594, Dutch navigator Willem Barentsz sets off on his second voyage with his crew after being attacked earlier by a polar bear. On their first expedition, they were attempting to find a northeast passage in order to clear a good pathway for other vessels. As the captain and his crew slowly navigate through the thick ice, they can see off in the distance on a polar island polar bears congregating and feeding on prey. Polar bears are extremely dangerous as they are carnivorous, completely carnivorous. As the soldiers and captain were passing through the strait, one of the bears jumped in the water to try and test it. They had to fire muskets over its head to scare it off, but that was the first of two deadly encounters. As the ship continued to travel through the ice, it rammed into an ice shelf and became stuck. The ice that contained polar bears, and they immediately noticed. During the ship's accident, several of the sailors became dislodged. The polar bear noticed one and began the chase. A chase that ended in the man being devoured right before his crew, who could do nothing sitting in the ship. They watched as the polar bear devoured him completely. Back in the 1500s, you couldn't just pick up a radio and call for help. These people were stranded for the duration of the winter with a man-eating polar bear, having stalked, killed, and eaten one of them, and it's still on the prowl. Initially, the polar bears tried to board the vessels. The men thought it was a joke until they kept trying. Polar bears are relentless in their hunt and cunning behaviors. Later, as the captain is trying to calm his crew, he began to get ill. However, they needed to rescue the other remaining crew member that was separated from the ship. They were shipwrecked in the middle of the Norwegian Sea in the 1500s, where there was no communication such as today, and a man-eating polar bear, which had already eaten one of their crew members, is jumping from ice sheet to ice sheet, stalking another as they look on helplessly and can do nothing. A man couldn't outrun a bear on land, more or less on the snow, or even the sea, where this creature burst from the ice and attacked the second man, tearing him apart and eating him just as he did the first member in front of the crew. This polar bear tore this man apart, limb by limb, eating him, ripping flesh from his body, as the helpless crew members watched on. Their musket rifles couldn't reach that far to even try to assist him. It is said that the only thing left of the crew members was small bits and pieces of clothing. Once the other crew members were rescued the next winter, but the horrors that they witnessed during the polar bear attacks would linger on for the rest of their lives. But for Willem Barentsz, fate would have a different outcome. After surviving 3 expeditions and losing 2 men to a man-eating polar bear, Willem Barentsz became gravely ill and eventually, and ironically, succumbed to his injuries once they ported back after being saved. After surviving one of nature's deadliest predator attacks and watching two of his crew get literally eaten alive, Willem Barentsz went down in history as an important figure when it comes to surviving a polar bear attack, and he even had a sea named after him. Did you know that the Barents Sea was named after Willem Barentsz? We hope you enjoyed the video of his 1500 expedition that resulted in the death of two of its crew members. Please like, share, and subscribe to Where in the World is Frank and Gina? Just type Frank and Gina to subscribe to our channel. Check out some of our other animal attack stories, amongst our other 6 playlists of other types of videos. Rest in peace to the victims. God bless, and stay away from polar bears, because Joe Rogan was right. Take care, stay safe,